Hello, I'm Stephen Hustedde, and on behalf of Christopher Stevens and myself, we'd like to welcome you to the iOS cohort at South Mountain Community College. This is the spring 2021 semester, and Christopher and I are team teaching this class. So the cohort consists of two courses, CS 165, which is beginning iOS app development, and the advanced iOS app development of CIS 265. Together, they are 6 credits. There is a prerequisite coming into this cohort, and that is that you've had some programming experience or another programming class, such as our object-oriented programming fundamentals, or language such as Python, C#, Java, Kotlin, or VB.NET. Traditionally, the CIS 265 class would follow the 165, and a lot of campuses would teach this in 2 semesters. We decided to integrate these two, and it's not simply a 7-week plus 7-week format that we're using in this 14-week session. Rather, we are integrating these 2 courses a little bit more so, in that you'll find some of the advanced content might occur in the first 7 weeks, and some of the beginning content might occur in the second 7 weeks. It just kind of flows better as we look at how the competencies and the student learning outcomes interact between these 2 courses. This also allows us to not have to review the previous semester by offering both of them together. That saves some time in the cohort and allows us to cover additional topics and content that otherwise we maybe wouldn't have time to explore. So what are you going to need to create applications for your iPhone or iPad, and what do you need for this course? The first thing you're going to need is a Macintosh computer. Apple licensing requires that any iOS app or any Mac application be built on a Macintosh computer. Now, if you don't have a Mac, there's ways you can use a Mac in the cloud through a company such as Mac in Cloud, and we have a video on how to set that up. But we're also hoping in the next week or so to have remote access to a Mac from your PC into a project we're working on with Phoenix College. So be remote in and use a Mac. It'll be a little bit slower than if you have a physical Mac, but it will certainly work just fine. Christopher and I are both using the Catalina operating system. The software used to create iOS apps is Xcode, and we're using version 12.3. 12.4 is the latest that's in the App Store, and you're certainly welcome to download that. But I'd probably recommend maybe using 12.3 so you're consistent with what we're using. If you've already loaded 12.4, that's going to work fine. If you're using an earlier version such as Xcode 11, that will also work for most of the stuff that we'll demonstrate. Xcode is free, so you can just download it from the App Store. There's a few other things you will need. In order to get into the App Store, you will first need an Apple ID, and you can create an Apple ID at appleid.apple.com. You also need a developer account, and you can create an account at developer.apple.com. Now, developer accounts usually cost $99 a year, but fortunately there is now a free account available to you with some limitations, but those limitations will not limit you to anything we're doing in this course. If, however, you wanted to distribute your app on the App Store and provide it to others, you would need to have the $99 annual full developer license. For now, I'd recommend you just get a free license, and when you have an app created that you want to put up on the store, you'll be able to do so if you then upgrade to the $99 annual fee. That full developer license also gives you access to some developer tools, such as working with Siri, the game kit, and so forth, that are not available in the free license. But again, for all the stuff we're going to do in this course, the free license is all you really need, and it'll get you started. As I mentioned, the software you're using is Xcode, and Christopher and I are both using Xcode 12.3 this semester. 12.4 is available. And Xcode is what we call an integrated development environment. It allows us to design our interface, code it, and test it, and deploy it all from one environment. We'll be using Swift 5.3 as our language within Xcode. And that's important to know because Swift is a relatively new language. It's only been around about 6 years, and in those 6-7 years, it's gone from version 1 to version 5. And as you're looking for resources online, you want to make sure you're looking for something of Swift 5, maybe 4, to be compatible with what we're doing. Older versions of Swift, the code was different. If you go to download Swift from the App Store, you're going to get 12.4, or whatever the most recent version is. And as I mentioned, Christopher and I are both using 12.3. So if you want to be consistent with what we're doing, you can get the older version by going to developer.apple.com/download/more and look for Xcode 12.3. If you expand that area, you will find a zip file that you can download and install. By the way, you can have multiple versions of Xcode running on your Mac. We're also using some free iBooks that are available through Apple. These are all developed by Apple and were part of the Everyone Can Code curriculum that now has kind of gone into the second phase called Develop in Swift. There are 3 books. The first one's called Explorations, which really is more of just how computers work and gets you prepared on thinking about apps. The Fundamentals book is where we're going to start, and that is designed to introduce more of the Swift language and introduction to the Xcode as far as app development. This follow-on book on data collections takes us into a deeper level of working with data and working with class-level objects. You might also find the programming language reference guide put out by Apple helpful as well, so the Swift programming language on Swift 5.3. You can download all of those through the bookstore in your iBooks application. I sometimes have students asking about, is there a good book you would recommend? Some people like the tactile feel of a book versus an e-book or an iBook. And there's a lot of books out there. A lot of them kind of walk you through various projects. The one that I found that I really kind of like is Hello Swift by Tanmay Bakshi. Now, one of the things I look for in a book is I want it to be readable, easy to understand, and also work as and be a good reference. And I found that with this book. Now, let me tell you a little about Tanmay Bakshi. When he wrote this book last year, 2 years ago, he was 15 years old and was a 10th grader in high school, being homeschooled. He currently works for IBM as an AI and machine learning systems architect. This kid is a prodigy, but he explains things very well. And he wrote this book for his peers, for other young people to understand this language who had never programmed before. And so I think it's a great tool for learning Swift and learning iOS app development. Since it was written a couple years ago, it's a little bit outdated in that it really focuses on probably more on Swift 3 and 4, where we're using Swift 5, although the differences are not that much, and I think you'll find it pertinent to supplement the instruction in this course. It is not required. It is simply recommended for those who would like an additional resource and a book to follow along in. So there you have it. That's what's needed. Christopher and I are excited to be your tour guides on this journey. Be sure to read over the syllabus that we've sent out. I'd read it over a couple times. Do the entrance survey that's required by Wednesday of the first week, and explore the Canvas website. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the iOS App Development Cohort playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.